Welcome to our third episode of Impact Show. This show was created with the idea of people that I know in my network, which some people say are a few, and people that are making impact in their communities, their careers, what they're doing with their lives, and you guys rose to the top of my list. So honored to have you here on a day that you guys are moving. I mean, come on, with 7 kids, a reality show, a diversified technology company, and you're moving, all that, and you guys made time for us, and I really appreciate it. So
of
with
course.
us, we have Braunwyn, Windham, Burke, and Sean Burke together, which is rare. It's usually just her or just him, but to have them together, I can only imagine where this interview is going to go. So really stoked to have you on our third episode of Impact Show. And I think for our audience, which is a diverse collection of internet marketers, business owners, people from all around the world that have been involved with the Internet Marketing Association, I wanted them to get to know you the same way I know you, because there is this persona of the Real Housewives of Orange County. But then there are the people that I know that is another persona. So it's an interesting relationship that we formed, all started from the same school that our children go to, which is this adorable German school down the street here in Laguna Beach, beautiful Laguna Beach, which is the setting of our third show. So what I thought we would do is just get to know you a little bit. As with all of our shows, there's no script. This is just off the cuff, and I think it would be cool for our audience to know a little bit about your background, where you guys came from, and how you ended up in Orange County. So maybe we start with you, Braunwyn.
Well, we met when we were very young. So we were both in Santa Barbara. I was at City College. He had just graduated UCSB. And my roommate at the time had a crush on a boy, and she didn't know him. I did. So I went to the house to introduce her, and I'm sitting on the couch, just like this, and this guy walks in the door, and as cliche as it sounds, I knew I was going to marry him the minute he walked in.
Wow.
And I was 18.
Okay.
And I was not ready to settle down, you know. I was just like, wait, today?
Not really? Now?
Now?
Already?
And we spent that whole night talking to each other. We went on, we were very broke back then, so our first date was like a hike along the beach.
Okay.
And I think we talked about everything from religion to number of children to what we want in life. I mean, it was a big day.
Yeah, she had one of these books. It was like 1,000 questions, and I think she asked most of them.
Really?
I mean, it just went on for hours.
On the first time you guys met?
I was like, she's very particular.
I grew up in Laguna. This is where I'm from. So class of 95. And I had a boyfriend back home. I broke up with him that night. And we were inseparable every day since.
Wow. That's an amazing story. I had no idea.
Yeah, so
Love at first sight really does happen.
We've been together 25 years, and our 20th wedding anniversary is in a couple weeks.
Congratulations. That is epic. And so tell me, where did you grow up? I mean, tell me about your background, Sean.
Well, I grew up down in San Diego, Encinitas. I was born in England and moved all over. So I was in Northern California. My father was one of the first rocket scientists, engineers. He built one of the first supercomputers at Manchester, got recruited into Silicon Valley when that was all starting.
Right.
And then I got into technology early at a young age because when everybody else was getting gaming systems, I got one of these computers where I had to program the game and spend hours waiting for the tape to load and all that. And so I grew up in the tech field, but when I got older and I was in different industries and realized different things I wanted to do, I realized technology I just couldn't do. I couldn't stare in front of a screen all the time. I love business, I love people, and so I used the technology experience that I had to get into other areas.
Right.
That's while I was doing that. And Braunwyn's been there from the very beginning. The start of my company made out of boxes.
I think that what a lot of people don't know is his first company, he started in his fraternity room.
Oh, really?
And all he had was a credit card.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
fantastic.
since we were so young, we didn't know you couldn't do this.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so he's like, I'm going to start my own company in my fraternity room. And then, here we are.
Braunwyn always called my people that I work with the bees because he's like, you guys all shouldn't be able to fly, but you do anyway, somehow, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how we did. And of course, client visits, we went to go see our clients. We didn't say turn left to the keg and go up to the room.
And where did the entrepreneurial gene come in you? Did that come from your family? I mean,
my
what drove you to be an entrepreneur?
I have a lot of family of entrepreneurs. My dad was an engineer. But my grandfather had one of the first clothing stores in Soho in London.
Oh, wow.
He brought in brands from all over, and he was definitely an entrepreneur. My uncle had a record label called Daddy Cool. He was one of the people that brought Bob Marley into the whole scene of music.
Right.
And so they were, I had the family of that. That gene was somehow in there.
Have me, and I'm very expensive.
Oh yeah, well that too. And I had a catalyst. I had a driver.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was good.
Yeah.
So how do you go from this relationship starting to bam, 7 children, and what happened in between there? How does that just happen? Can you explain that?
Well, it doesn't just happen.
Okay.
I mean, even though I was young when we had our first, I was 22, so everyone thought that, that must have been, an accident. It wasn't. I was ready to have a baby.
Okay.
I never wanted to be anything else but a mom. That was it. And he knew that. He knew that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
Great.
So we had Bella and Rowan pretty quick, and then we had a little break before Jacob, and I knew I wasn't done.
Right.
Then I remember I was 27 years old. We had a beautiful home in San Diego. I was driving home. He was working nonstop, traveling 25 days of the month.
This is typical young family starting career.
We had, 3 kids, and I'm driving to my house in my beautiful car, and I realized that everything I ever thought I wanted, I didn't.
Right.
And I just had this moment of, I don't want any of this.
Sure.
I am 27. I feel like my life is over. So we kind of packed everything up in about a week, sold our house, sold all of our furniture. We're like, we're out of here.
Okay.
We're going to go to Hawaii. We're going to go to D.C.
Yep.
We're going to go to Miami.
Right.
We're going to see the world.
We're going to go see the world.
Like,
instead of just succumb to
I'm not ready
the
for
rat race of
take our kids and go.
Let's go see the world.
And
let's
we kind
experience.
of decided in that moment that we were going to do it on our own terms.
Okay.
And I think that was the best thing that could have happened to us.
What was the catalyst in that moment? I mean, what was that signal inside you? Where did that come from in your mind?
Well, we almost separated.
Okay.
Because we were both very unhappy. He was always gone. I was always alone.
Sure.
We were 27 and 31. We were still very young.
Okay.
And I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
I don't want to be a single mom.
Yeah.
I want a husband. And
I was prioritizing work over
Sure.
the family. I didn't have a good balance.
Right.
And everybody needs that right balance,
Right.
and we were not there.
And that's pretty cool of you as a husband to be like, okay, because that's tough for us sometimes, right, as entrepreneurs to be like, okay, hit the brakes on work and really listen to our partner and make that 180, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty drastic shift.
I mean, sometimes something might take a little bit longer,
Right.
but then at the end, it's worth it because you've got
Absolutely.
everything along with you.
It's your life, right? Why are you working?
Yeah.
It's for your family, right? What's life if it's just for yourself, right? So that's epic that you guys did that. So tell me how that shift happened. You packed everything and then you guys just started traveling. Where'd you guys go?
Well, our first place we went to was Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then...
It's a good start.
Yeah. Well, we spent our summers there. So that's always been like a second home to us.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then all of this stuff happened at work that was unexpected. That was all very good.
Right.
So we decided to go to D.C. for a few years so he could get these contracts he'd been working on.
Cool.
We did all the beginning work with Homeland Security,
Nice.
working with everybody from Secret Service to Coast Guard, right when the department was forming.
Okay.
So we were doing a lot of work with them in security, cybersecurity, that kind of stuff. And so that brought us to D.C. But we were only supposed to be there for 3 months.
Okay.
And we ended up being there as a base for
while.
about a year and a half.
Okay.
Which
How
was
was
longer
that
than
shift
we're
in
supposed
weather?
to
I mean,
be.
to go from sunny Southern
was
California.
bad.
We weren't happy.
Okay.
Which is how we ended up in Miami.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's just down the street, a little bit warmer.
We kept
Okay.
going on
Not
trips.
going same time zone, a little bit easier,
time
And
same
so
flight.
our final trip there, we had 3 kids at the time. I looked at him and said, I'm not going back.
That's it.
Until you sign a lease on I'm not going back.
Okay.
I can't go back there.
Now, in all fairness, this was after the schools were closed for 3 weeks because of the snowstorm.
Right,
the
right.
one rare snowstorm, which they actually have every year.
Right.
They closed the school, so we were stuck.
Yes, and then we were in Miami, and we didn't know one person there. It was when everyone thought we were crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So did work lead you to Miami? Is that
Not
what
at
we're-
all.
No.
Okay. All right. So that was just more lifestyle.
No. I was still at that time doing government contracts,
Okay.
business at DC.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miami was not.
Then we had a big break. He wasn't working.
Yeah.
He had taken a lot of time off.
Right.
The kids were a little bit older. We were having the best time of our lives. We were out all night, hanging out all day. I mean, It was a great time. But then after, I would say 6 years, I was like, you know what? I kind of want more kids.
So that's when.
So here's the balance was one way. Balance went all the way the other way where we're having a really good time. And we're like, well, maybe we can, figure that somewhere in the middle. It's all good. Yeah.
And then so where did the more children come, and what was the timing of that, and where did that happen? And how did the family evolve as they were moving? Was that difficult, like moving schools and just, at that stage of your life?
Not really, because a lot of our kids were homeschooled at the time for various reasons. That one was a classically trained dancer,
right?
So she was homeschooled. And our kids have always been very resilient to change. They like moving.
Okay.
And so when we had more kids, we always asked them if they were okay with it. And we had to do IVF for the younger kids. So they were a part of the process. That's why we have the twins.
Right.
And then, as sad as this sounds, like I never felt done until I felt done.
Right.
So the minute Hazel was born, our 7th kid,
right,
I finally said, I'm done.
Okay.
And I felt it inside. So it's a good feeling of being complete.
Okay. But are you really complete?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, just with 2 children, I'm just like, how are they doing?
Right. Oh my God.
Right.
It's pretty adorable.
Hopefully we'll have like 20 grandkids.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, I think your odds are really good that that's going to happen.
That'll happen.
I can only imagine how your family photos look with your beautiful children, and that's awesome. So, Miami, you were doing a lot of work out there, and tell me a little bit about your work background. I mean, I'm fascinated on the tech side with Channel Stars and just the portfolio of businesses. Like, is there some sort of type of technology that you're building or companies that you like to back?
So the background where this all came from is I've been in the IT and tech industry for a long time. I've built companies, sold companies, and been in that environment for a long time. And it's all been traditional infrastructure, support, outsourced MIS. This is back in the days when you had CTOs. Every company had their own rack of servers and systems and security. And during the time where I was just consulting, the whole world changed. Everything went into cloud computing and applications. People didn't run infrastructures. People didn't have IT teams. It was all about data and information. And when we came back out here, I realized that I wanted to do something again. I wanted to create a new company, have this background in traditional tech. I knew about running businesses. And I wanted to do something that completely usurped all of that and gave people real true value in what they're looking for in tech. But tech in a totally different way. So when we take a look at technology or support businesses now, it's all within the data aspect of that. How they're using the data, where's that data go, what's valuable, what's not, how do you own that data, where is it? And taking an approach like that has really helped and made us support businesses from large businesses to startups, anyone in between. And in doing so, I also wanted to create a place where my friends and relationships I've had for many, many years can all go collaborate and talk. She calls it the clubhouse. I call it the office. And we can go there. Friends can come there. Colleagues can come there. People can buy. We talk about their business issues, what's happening. Maybe there's investment opportunities. Maybe there's marketing opportunities. Maybe there's tech support. And I'll give you a little plug here on your thing. What resonates too with IMA and all these groups that you support is that it's all about these collaboration and relationships that I have. And this is how it all happens and comes together. I don't know always what the opportunity next week is going to be.
I
like to keep that door open for that, or what relationship is going to benefit another. But I feel really fortunate to be in that space, to have the opportunity to help people in that way. And things have really evolved and started to form those pillars of success and partnerships.
And Sean, you're a true innovator, and just knowing that your office is right here by the airport in Orange County is great.
Sure is.
That folks, it's a great incubator for startups and people. I mean, a lot of the folks that are behind the set here are Chapman film students and grads, and a lot of people have an idea, and sometimes it doesn't have to be the next Facebook or some huge billion-dollar business, but it's a niche business. And to be able to come into your incubator and to meet with you and have access to folks like us in the IMA and to help that collaboration, but to also meet like-minded professionals that can partner, and Orange County is becoming a big hub of innovation. So obviously you've got entrepreneur, and now tell me how the Real Housewives of Orange County, how did that happen? Because how I met you guys were just another family at our school, and I got to come to your daughter's birthday party, and we had a great time with our family. But then the next birthday party we got invited to, we had to sign a waiver. So how did that happen so fast? I mean, this is interesting. Did they approach you? Did you approach them? I mean, tell us that journey. That's fascinating.
So,
and bring in a little bit of how you came back from Miami. What was that transition point?
So we came back from Miami because our children wanted to go to school out here. Our oldest daughter, Bella, wanted to go to boarding school. up the coast.
Okay.
And then Rowan, our second child, who, like I said, she's a classically trained dancer. She wanted to go to a certain art school out here.
Okay.
So she got in, Bella got in, and we knew for the family it was probably going to be the best choice.
Awesome.
And also, you know, it's hard to have a family in a city.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we had 6 kids at this time, and we were looking for it to be a little easier.
Sure.
And I was ready to come back home.
Yeah.
So I had always known I wanted to do something at this point more than just be a mom. I didn't know exactly what it was. I had started my mom blog.
Yeah.
I often get from all my new friends that are having babies, advice. So that was my one thing. But I knew that I had kind of, like you said, a niche. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of children, but I still am able to keep myself together. We still travel a lot.
Right.
I still have a very active social life. So I started documenting that on Instagram.
Awesome.
With the purpose of something happening. And I didn't exactly know what it was.
Right.
But my Instagram was curated for a specific reason.
Nice.
And when they approached me, it was based on my Instagram.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. So that's how they kind of got you.
Yeah. And when they wrote to me, I was like, this makes sense. This would be a good fit. So it's a pretty long audition process. You don't just get the job. You know, there's a process that goes into it. But
what I'm discovering about you that I never knew is you kind of have this inside voice that speaks to you, and then you follow that voice. I mean, if you think about the 180 you did coming, from the moving your life, changing everything, and rebooting, and then starting this blog, not even knowing where it was going to go, and then now you're here. And I think, we succumb so much to like what life should be, right? Go to school, get married, have children, retire, have grandchildren, and die, right? So it's kind of like this circle of normalcy, but you kind of invest into that voice where it's like, wait, I don't need to necessarily follow the same act, right? I can reboot. I'm living my life for what I want to live it for. And this blog sounds very interesting because it sounded like that inner voice said, hey, do this. Don't know where it's going to go, but now look at where it's gotten, right? And isn't that a great message for like our audience? I mean, like, listen to that inside voice because we all have it, and a lot of times we just like shut it down. We just bury it because we know that way too much risk, right? But you said, you know what? There's a lot of risk, but I don't know what the reward is, but I'm going to follow this voice. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's manifesting it too.
Yeah.
What do you want? I wanted to have my own television show. I mean, that is what I wanted. I knew our family is different, and I knew there was something that we should share with the world. So I was putting it out there, and I didn't know how it was going to come. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anyone in this industry,
right? But
I knew that it would happen, and I never doubted that. So when they did call, I was like, "Took you long enough."
Yeah.
And
what I will say is that inner voice is very insightful because Braunwyn does trust that. Right. And even when you had that, you had people from your family and other people saying, "Why are you doing this? This is not the way to go about it. It's not how they're going to find you.
Right.
You're wasting your
time." Made fun of me.
But you trusted your instinct the whole way, and you didn't.
And I will say I have done that with everything. From the moment he walked into the door, I knew right away.
Right. There was the inner voice there too. There's a third.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some good parallels there.
When things are right, I do believe the universe puts them in your path if you're open to it.
Sure.
And if for me, if I'm fighting too hard, it's because it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
And so there is, if you sort of just quiet your brain, there's a path if you can see it.
Sure. And have there been an inner voice where you followed it and it just led to something and you just said, you know what, I'm cashing out. I'm not going to pursue this anymore, or has it kind of paid off every time?
It's kind of paid off every time.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a time
if you get the winning lottery numbers, can you give me a call?
I mean, there's definitely been times where something's happened, he's working so hard, I've been like, this isn't it.
It's not worth it.
Yes. You have this premonition, you can feel like that's not a good vibe.
Yes.
It's an energy source,
And even just with the Housewives now, there's been some opportunities that have come my way recently where I'm like, this is it.
Right.
This is the path I'm going to take right now. This is the message that I can share.
Sure.
And it's been really, really great.
So the blog, this is something you still continue?
I have been, yes. Okay. But there's just been some recent events where I have realized that what I thought I needed to share isn't as important, but I really do need to.
Right.
So most of my blog has been on fashion and travel, but what I've noticed recently is we really need to focus more on positive parenting.
Sure.
There is, we're just in a time right now where people aren't always accepting of others.
Right.
And we have been very blessed that we have kids that embrace everyone.
Right.
And I have had this platform where I've had a lot of teenagers, especially from the LGBTQ community, reach out to me and say, thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you. So I am shifting it a little into how can parents and kids talk? How can parents and teenagers especially have open dialogue? I want to start more workshops on that so parents can learn that their kids are dealing with so much more than we understand.
Absolutely.
You know, and the way that we were brought up is not the same way they are.
Right.
And how can we sort of not just be parent and children, but people that can trust each other.
And one thing I've always felt with you guys is diversity. You appreciate all walks of life together and equally, and I think that's a vibrant message to send to any community on your blog, on your show, and that's something we strongly advocate as well. So that's fantastic. And so the Housewives show then started to manifest, and now you guys are in your second season starting. I mean, congratulations!
Thank you.
Because it kind of seemed like I'm looking at the ratings, like you guys entered, and then all of a sudden you're kind of a big part of the show. I mean, this is fantastic success. Congratulations.
I had a really great first season, and when Andy specifically called me out and said, great casting, that was amazing. And then I know who they're casting for next season, who the top 3 finalists are, and I'm very lucky that I'm friends with all of them.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it'll be nice to actually have... You've actually met all of them. They were all at my birthday party.
Absolutely. Hey, that was a great birthday party, by the way. I mean, the stripper pole was cool. Yeah. I expected that. But Andy Cohen being there, but it was his cutout silhouette. I was so bummed. Okay.
But it's been...
maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe
it's been a really great opportunity, and the fact that I'm going to have some people that I actually know and, trust.
Sure.
That is great. Because I think, yes, the fighting is part of it, but I think the real reason people tune in is the dynamics between women and real friendships.
Sure.
Because that's what we all connect to. Like the real conversations about mental health, about marriage.
Sure.
Those are the true things that I think all of us get written to the most about.
And that's interesting you mentioned is like these topical topics that are going on in everyday current affairs, right? That is brought into the show.
Right.
Like you're talking about... I grew up watching Beverly Hills 90210. I mean, I actually watched it so much, I actually thought I was a cast member at times. Driving to Torrance High School and saying, hey, that's where they shoot Beverly Hills 90210. But very similarly, before reality television, those shows really documented things going on in current affairs as well. So what are some of those current affair topics that you foresee happening now and in the future that could play out on television?
I think right now for Bravo especially, I think... inclusiveness.
Right.
There's been some issues popping up with racism, with homophobia, and I really think Bravo is doing what they can to be more progressive on that front.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also think these shows have sort of showcased one type of family and one type of woman.
Right. Yeah.
The kind, they're a little frivolous, they spend money, they fight, and I think people are kind of realizing that women aren't that. We do more than buy stuff. Yes, most of us are affluent, but what can we do for good? And I think, like Lisa Vanderpump is an amazing example of that because she took her platform and she's done amazing thing for Yulin, and now it's it got all the way to Congress. So
awesome. I
think instead of we're not just going to buy stuff and go on trips and fight.
Right.
There's a lot more that women have to offer.
Yeah.
And I definitely see Bravo as taking the forefront of that.
Yeah.
And as our family being one of the things of there is another way to parent.
Sure.
There's not the fake hair, the fake lips.
Right.
It's teenagers that are dealing with stuff, teenagers that are creating, families that are supporting.
Right. Are there any other issues that come to mind that are important to you and your family as you advocate on your own platform?
I mean, definitely mental illness is a big one for us because of our own issues with our daughter. I think making it more acceptable to talk about it if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious. I think teenagers especially are very vulnerable right now.
Is it something that you think is just our generation that's battling mental illness, or has this been happening for generations? Is it more prevalent now because of internet and social media and influencing aspects around that, teen suicide as it relates to Instagram, things like that? Do you think that's hitting mental illness, or do you think there's just something happening?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think there's a genetic component.
Yeah.
But
I think it's been around for a long time, but issues have changed. Yeah. I mean, it's not hidden that some of the other things that kids see or do, or the amount of information that they receive every single day is not having an effect on their minds in some way or another.
Sure.
It's just in a different way. And there are other issues that are not as bad as they were before.
Right.
But I don't think we have caught up to addressing what the real issues of today are.
Right.
And I don't think parents are equipped to handle what a lot of those issues are. We're not. We still learn backwards sometimes.
Of course.
And then if we can share that back, great. Why recreate the wheel? Why live in silos and have everybody go through this alone when we can actually get those issues out there?
Well, that's awesome. And you mentioned platform, and that's something that speaks true to the Internet Marketing Association. Our worldwide membership is, you've got this great following on Instagram, and it just continues. Every time I'll see it, it grows by the thousands. Can you talk a little bit about the correlation of the show and the platform, and how you're able to kind of grow your following, because that's incredible.
I mean, so far I've just been winging it.
Right.
I've recently hired some people to help me because I now realize I need some help. But until now, it's just been me. And one of the things I do, which is important to me, is I answer my DMs. Oh. And I don't hire someone to do it. It's
nice.
Me.
Wow.
So
did you hear that?
if you write to me and you're having issues with infertility,
right,
with your mental health, I have women who are reaching out to me for based on their sexuality, I will answer you. And that is me.
Right.
Because I do care about our fans. I did not come on this show to sell teeth whitening trays. That's what I joke about. Yeah. I actually came on the show because I did want, I've learned a lot of lessons in 42 years.
Absolutely.
Most of them the hard way.
Yeah.
And so I want to share my stories. I want to get to know people, and for me, it's very important to build women up.
Absolutely.
That's why, like you said, my party, I have so many amazing friends because we all support each other. Yeah. So if I can support anyone, whether I've met them or not, I will be there for you.
Right. Just a couple days ago, we were at the 131st Tournament of Roses Parade. First of all, that is intense to get there. 800,000 people showed up. But what made it really cool was it was the first time a female pilot flew the stealth bomber over the parade, which was so cool. And apparently her whole, cast from taking off to landing, everyone that was involved were all female. So I think that gender equality speaks volumes, and, we're strong advocates of it. And that was so cool to see that. If you guys ever want a cool experience, do the Tournament of Roses Parade. And if you want seats, I will help you with that. We have a good friend, Greg Custer, who serves on their board. Great guy. It was a fantastic family experience. So tell me about family experiences. Like, can you guys just take your 7 children to Disneyland and just kind of not be approached by people, or what happens?
Okay, well, if we go to Disneyland, which we don't do very often, we hire a guide.
Okay.
Because that just makes it so much easier.
Sure.
They tell us where to go, what to do, and we don't wait in lines.
Okay.
Totally worth it for us.
Awesome.
Do we get approached? Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
A lot.
Yeah. The older kids love it. They think it's fun.
Right.
The little kids are still like, what?
Right.
They don't fully understand what's happening.
Why do all these strangers keep coming up to you?
I mean, it's one thing to get a message on Instagram and respond, but then you're out in public, and people are going to come and they want to take a photo with you. So what happens in those scenarios? Because you want to have your time with your family as well, but are you able to kind of balance it and handle those inquiries all the time, or what goes on in those moments?
I have found when I'm with the kids, people are usually very respectful. Okay. They might say in passing, I love you on the show.
Okay.
Most people understand you're with your family and they don't want to bother you.
Sure.
But even if they do, I don't consider it a bother.
Right.
I love this.
Sure.
So
awesome.
For me, this is fun. I love getting to know people. Even just here when we're waiting downstairs, someone came up to us and said, I love you on the show. And it's like, oh, well, where are you from? And what is your life?
Sure.
I do like to interact with people. I'm very social.
What I will say is it's really nice. So there are some people that are just out there with their phones and they'll just record you.
Okay, that I don't like.
And that is, you know what? If you just record, just come up and say hi. Take a picture with us. We love that. We love to meet you. Right. But sticking your phone there for a time, we're like,
there was a time I was having lunch with my little kids, and someone just had their phone up recording us eating, and I was like, use your manners. Napkins in the lab.
Now, you guys are in the show. You're feeling a good groove. You're making a move again. It sounds like you guys are moving your house, and lot up in the air. Now, going back to the family aspect in your children, is this something you talk to them about? Look, mom and dad are on the show. We're going to be on TV. And, do they find conversations going on in school, and how does that dynamic work at home?
I mean, the older kids we asked, and they were all fine with it. The little kids, they're so little. But they actually love filming. Yeah. They got so close to the crew that they were sad when they left.
Okay.
I mean, the crew use the boom mic as a piñata. They get enough to grab it. I mean, they think it's fun. It's like
And then some of the topics that I talked about this year, a lot of people said, aren't your children going to be really embarrassed? Because I opened up about parts of our sex life that people weren't comfortable with, and they weren't. I mean, we talked to our kids first, and then they go to a very progressive art school, where nobody cared.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when
They're
people were
supportive.
giving us a hard time about our kids, I'm like, you're really not giving young people enough credit these days.
Right.
Because they're much more forward thinking than we are. They're not getting made fun of.
Right. No.
And I thought maybe it would be hard with like parents or whatever, and it's no one cares.
No.
And one of our daughters, she had some real issues that she was talking about on the show. And she was asked many, many times. NBC is really good about saying, "Hey, I want to make sure this is okay. Are you sure? Are you sure?" Even before it goes on, are you sure? They talk directly to the kids. I mean, they really want to be careful. And she said, "I'm ready, and if I help somebody, then that's what I'm doing it for."
Right.
And then we followed up and said, from her school perspective, has it been hard because everybody knows this about you?
Right.
And she said it's freeing.
Right.
I feel free because they do know I don't have to hide anything.
Right.
This is who I am. So take what you get.
That's awesome.
And for a child who's 17, we're thinking, wow, that's so mature.
Huge.
And so already for you to be able to deal with it that way and do that, you're going to do so much more with life.
Right.
And to be able to have that level of honesty and own it, your faults, your good things and your faults.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's been nice too because she's the same as me. She answers her DMs and she gets a lot from 11, 12-year-old girls who are dealing with issues. And so for her, it's very cathartic to help them too.
This is your daughter who's into fashion, has her own line,
this is
right?
Rowan.
Okay, right. And she's got a following now on Instagram. You told me about,
Yeah.
and then tell me a little about her clothing line. Like how are you inspiring her with your insight and your entrepreneurism?
I mean, I didn't inspire any of this. This was all her own. She started doing this when we were in Miami, when she was homeschooled.
Oh, cool.
She wanted to learn how to sew, design. So she did everything on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dance wear line came from, she would go to these competitions.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of over-the-top pageantry outfits, nothing for the serious dancers.
Okay.
And so that's why she created it. And then, obviously we support what our kids want to do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then once we got the show, we knew we had obviously a great platform for it. So
absolutely.
Finding the fashion show was a great thing for her. But that's not really enough now. So we are actually creating our own fashion week because we realized that there is a big market here that's not being touched with young entrepreneurial and also the giving back component to helping young people out because that's important to us.
Oh, huge.
So.
Yep, and this Orange County was lacking a soul within the fashion world. Yeah. And a consistent one all year round. There's production here, there's factories, there's retail, there's a lot of designers, there's a lot of boutique shops, and there just wasn't a lot of representation, and certainly nothing that was cohesive between all of that.
Right.
And so by creating this, we're creating something that not just benefits our daughter, but also is able to help the community. Then it's going to be a nonprofit. It's the Southern California Fashion. And that organization helps them bring money back to local education facilities and to people in the area to help support youth and design.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, just in wrapping up, I mean, it's 2020. Can you believe it? Like, boom, what happened? It's just like, it's a new year. So, are you guys believers in resolutions? What's the big goals for 2020? Tell me a little bit about what the future looks like for Braunwyn and Sean.
And the family.
You know what? I can't even guess. Because if you had told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here after an amazing season on The Real Housewives, I can't even begin to imagine where things are going to go from here.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be amazing, though.
Yeah.
I don't do resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll break them all.
I used to have the standard resolution, I'm going to work out more, and Braunwyn goes, you do that every year.
Yeah.
You still look the same. I'm like, okay, well, that's true. So I'm giving up on that.
I think I tried dry January. It lasted 9 hours.
Oh, yeah, there you go. You did.
Yeah. But I am excited. I'm excited for the things that we're working on right now. I'm excited for the people that we've met that we're surrounding ourselves that can help us.
Yes.
With this.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the best thing now. Now we've lived here long enough.
Right.
To meet people like you. To get to be a part of this community in a way that's going to be really beneficial, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, we're so proud of where you guys are at in your journey, and this is truly not only a love story, but a story of success in so many different lenses, right? Because if you are just super successful as an entrepreneur or as an actress, that's one thing. But to be that in family, in education, in giving back to your community, that to me is impact. It's the reason why I created the IMA, the show, is to inspire others to think differently and to not conform to what maybe the world is telling them to do, but listen to their soul, listen to that voice inside. And I really believe that we all have that ability to find that sort of balance. And in closing, do you have any advice for the general IMA? We have a lot of young entrepreneurs. Maybe we start with you, Braunwyn. I mean, you're so successful. You're an actress. You're in fashion. All these things. Like anything as this next generation of entrepreneurs are growing up that comes to mind?
Yes, it takes time. You know, we had nothing. We were broke. We sat on milk crates, for real. And we had a dream and we never gave up, but it took a long time.
Yeah.
So be patient, put in the work, and realize nothing is instant. Even if you think other people are getting it easier, that's not true. So just keep going at it and keep your dream in mind and keep going.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm going to add on to that is just follow your own path. Everyone's path is different, so follow your own path.
Right.
And adding to that inner voice thing, you know your inner voice is right and you're following it if half the people say it's wrong.
Right.
So you just got to believe in yourself and keep going with it, keep the consistency, and then if you follow it all the way through and you fail, that's great too.
Right.
Learn from it, do the next thing, but stay true to yourself, and I think that will guide somebody and be the right way.
Awesome. And just as part of the closing, adversity is something that we talk about in this show, is like when you're just completely losing and then losing and then losing and losing. And you want to give up. But what advice do you have about that moment of just continuing to push on rather than just throwing in the towel? Do you have any thoughts and moments in your life where you're just like, this is just too much, I want out of this, but you pushed on and then the weather shifted in your direction?
Absolutely. The best piece of advice I got was you don't stop when you're in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the hardest part is when you're right in the middle of it. So you just keep going and you will get through it.
Right.
Never stop in the middle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doorway will eventually open.
Yeah.
And it doesn't usually happen until you've been through that hardest part.
Right.
And we have been through a lot of
We've been through the hardest part several times.
Awesome.
Everybody does.
And we've always come out the other side.
And I'm proud of you, and thank you for sharing that with our audience, because in my opinion, that's what makes us human, is our failures or those difficult times.
Absolutely.
Because we all know what success feels like or looks like because we see it on television and there's this glamorous side, but there's a filter on that. And I really believe what makes us all, our character and as individuals, is really those difficult, those trying times. And that's something that we try to bond around in the show, in this community. So as a personal friend and as a colleague, I'm really honored to have you on our 3rd episode. If you like this content, subscribe. I mean, we are awesome. We're Impact Show. We're going to do this every month. We have some amazing interviews lined up, and it's been an absolute honor, and wish you continued success. You have all of our community and resources behind you, so anytime you need the IMA, you can count on us.
Thank you
and
for having us.
good luck with your move, and good luck with 2020. So
Thank
that's
you.
a wrap.
2020.
Cheers.
See you guys.